Hello, Tyler Bryden here. I hope everything's going well. Today I'm looking at LinkedIn's top startups of 2022. This is specifically the Canadian version. So there's 15 Canadian companies that are on the rise. This was published on September 28th. And I just thought it would be interesting to take a couple minutes to look through this. I've got all the links. You can see I got a lot of LinkedIn pages up here. And so you can learn some interesting things about the companies through there. And then I've got the actual dedicated website. So just want to take a sort of quick gander at this, pick out a couple things that are maybe interesting about the companies that are selected, and then dump you with a load of resources if you're either interested in these companies or exploring more, or maybe you're a startup founder yourself and seeing like how do these companies become these top 15 in Canada. Are there any trends or patterns amongst them, or if you're a job seeker. And it seems like ultimately in the end this is a resource at LinkedIn, huge platform for hiring. In the end, it's ultimately meant to be a resource for job seekers excited by the opportunity to join a startup. And I think there's something that's super fascinating that comes out from the comments that are in the section. So I'll jump into the actual companies in a second here. But Michael with maybe a blunt comment on this about it being hard to be bullish on Canadian tech startups when you see big companies like Shopify, Lightspeed, Commerce, and others struggling in the market, whether that's them trying to raise funding, whether that's them having to do recent layoffs, or just, if their public company is taking massive hits on the overall valuation of their company as sort of equity markets and the public markets get hit. And I'm not going to be able to comment too much on that, but, it seems like there's some insight or some signals that this is going to get worse before it gets better. And, with that in mind, while you are, maybe a person looking at joining these companies, the question is, is this the right time to join these companies? What is the risk of this? And then I think you also have to balance, like, what am I looking for compensation? What am I looking for? What do I expect out of this? And then also take a look at these companies that were, in the past, very relatively sort of safe bets. If you had the talent or the network or the skill set, these big Amazon, Google, Meta, all these, they have also put in hiring freezes and are not hiring in the same way. So super interesting time where you've got these high growth startups like the ones on these lists, and then you've got these big companies, and both of them are actually making decisions based on the market conditions they're in, the growth trajectory that they're on, whether that's like super, if that's been super aggressive in the past, maybe they are needing to tighten that up because they don't know how long this potential what could be significant recession is going to last. And so they are, figuring out the best way to, basically move towards break even, move towards profitability. And that's something I think super important for you to consider, because generally, and it's not always that way, but if there is any layoffs or market conditions continue to worsen, these companies need to tighten up even further. It's people who are often the newest who can be impacted. And it's not always true, but it's definitely something to consider. And it was also a super interesting thread on this idea of like, if someone has recently done a round of layoffs, would you go and work at these companies? So I think that's an important thing to ask yourself. And so with saying that, one of my favorite companies here, Ada, software development company, really working with, started out sort of specifically with chatbots, but now bringing sort of voice interaction into that, and really through this lens of like, how can we optimize the efficiency of customer service so that you have intelligent chatbots and automated customer and service engagement before it's maybe upgraded to talking to a real person. In this case, Ada recently did a round of layoffs. Ada, and they've done this in the past, and I don't think this is specifically a shot at them, but they had recently cut off 16% of their workforce. So that's 78 positions in total. And, these are some people, being connected to a bunch of these people on LinkedIn. I'm from Toronto. I love this company. I love following these companies. Some of these people seem, super talented and, big parts of the team. And so you can see sort of in this letter and sort of what I've just said, like the higher cost of capital. So, these companies are saying, hey, do we want to continue to dilute our company more by raising more money? Can they match the valuation that they had, previously raised at? And if not, it's not really an ideal time to raise. And you can see like this is not just limited to Ada. This is, you can see off layoffs. 630 tech companies across the world have cut almost 90,000 employees this year. Shopify, a little bit of an insight on Shopify and some of the other companies who have seen this. So this is not just limited to Ada and not picking them on this list, but I think something super important to think when you look at companies that are in this list who are doing amazing things, but are maybe on that venture capital route, high growth, and with that high growth, high expectations, probably, maybe not profitable and high burn. And so those are things that you should consider. And I don't know how open these companies are with their details of this. Like, can you go into a job interview, say, if you're actually interested in working with these companies, and say, hey, I want to know, where are we at? Where are we at from runway? Where are we at from, a revenue monthly standpoint? How much are we burning each month? If you can sort of paint that picture, you can really start to see like how safe is this position. And I think you also then need to look at the companies that we're working, that I'm interested in, or any of these companies. Just if you're looking at this in general, like this, people sort of predicting like how many of these companies are going to make it. Are they doing something that is truly essential to businesses, to the bottom line of businesses, or helping with massive efficiency gains, or increasing their revenue, or decreasing their costs significantly with the customers that they're working with? Like, are they necessary? Because there have been a lot of companies over the last few years who have been propped up on venture capital funding without solving a true problem in the market. And I think that's something really important for us all to consider right now as, just as an example, companies all around the world adjust to this market and say, hey, I need to cut my marketing spend, or the experimental R&D I'm doing in this place specifically is no longer necessary, or we cannot afford to do this because we need to allocate these resources somewhere else. And so we've seen like, very experimental departments, even at big companies like Google, cut projects because they're so experimental, and the return in the short term, even though those have paid out in the long term for them many times over with product development and breakthroughs, is maybe not the most essential, crucial thing right now. So I'll jump back off my pedestal for a minute, and just a couple sort of interesting things about this. And again, all these links are here. You can check this out if you thought. I just wanted to share a couple points on this of what I'm seeing as I'm looking for this, and obviously as they're promoting hiring and things. So making sure that they haven't done a recent round of layoffs, making sure that the compensation and everything makes sense, and also understanding like what is their market function, and are they solving a problem that's truly needed. And I'll take another example of a company I have a lot of love for, Cohere. Cohere has raised a significant amount of money, I believe $110 million here. Let me see if I can pull up Cohere on Crunchbase. And so with that, they took a big valuation in that, and then they're doing a lot of sort of I would say testing of markets to see like where, 164 million, I think that's USD. So first of all, that's one thing is actually super good is that they have a lot of money and resources, and you can see with that, like that there's some security in that round has already been closed. That money is sitting in the bank. Of course, they're hiring and they're growing, but you can understand as long as they are training, massive systems. Generally, they're not going to be spending that, all in the next 6, 9, 12 months. So you also think, what is the life cycle that I actually want to spend at this company? The other thing that's super interesting is because their sort of application of their technology is so wide, I think they're doing a lot of sort of testing in the market right now. So content moderation, text generation, there's some really interesting sort of sample sets of the kind of technology application that they have. Some people might not define them as specifically having this idea of product market fit or a focused application of their technology because it is so broad and wide. And that can be part of the strategy. We've struggled with that here at our company at Speak AI, but it is something for you that as maybe you're thinking, depending on the role, or you're thinking of how closely you want to be aligned with customers and market conditions, that could be a factor in you making the decisions of like, is this the right company for me? And this is the right company, again, as a job seeker, maybe as someone who's an investor, or someone who is just sort of following the market and trying to figure out what companies they can, follow, model after, and all those things. So a couple of things that were cool was that it was broken down by headcount, headquarters. A lot of Toronto companies in here, but I've also seen a couple of Vancouver companies. I don't know, exactly how, I don't know exactly how they split. So there are Montreal, Kitchener, Toronto, Calgary, and Winnipeg. So pretty, wide geographic area, although there is some concentration in Toronto. And then I would say out west, what we're not seeing in here is any out east companies. So that was super fascinating. There doesn't seem to be, besides Montreal, there's no hub, at least as far as I know, what we're seeing in these companies that are, out east in Halifax and Nova Scotia and all this. And they do talk about the methodology that they have. So they base it around 4 pillars: employment growth, engagement, job interest, and attraction of top talent. Some of those things are, seem somewhat, subjective, but it seems like they do have, a couple sort of actual objective measures. So like headcount increases over time frame, which must be a minimum of 10%. Looks at non-employee views and follows of the company LinkedIn page. So how engaged are people with the company page? So again, this is very in LinkedIn's interest to do it. Job interest counts rate at which people are viewing and applying to jobs. And then attraction of job talent implies how many employees the startup has recruited away from any LinkedIn top company as a percentage of the startup's total workforce. So in the end, that's pretty fascinating. Data is normalized across all eligible startups, and then they actually share the time frame, and then they actually give the original eligibility. So it must be fully independently, privately held, 50 or more full-time employees, 7 years older or younger, and be headquartered in the country on whose they list. So all of these are Canadian companies. They do that. I think some of the other debate here is this, truly, are all these fit the definition of a startup? And I think generally, when we look, just example, back at that Crunchbase of Cohere, in a way, still classified as a startup, although you're seeing companies that have 400 employees. They were founded in 2016. What is this definition of a startup, and when does that cross over from a scale up or just become a real company? And just for the sake of time, because I'm already at 11 minutes here, I think I've given a couple of things. I'm not going to jump into every website, but some super fascinating things, I would say, around the headcount, the industries in, definitely some fintech, all very technology based. Some seem to have sort of SaaS, B2B offerings. Others do even seem to have a little bit more sort of a consultant or development arm to them, and obviously that's super valuable in the time that we're in. So I think that's it from me here today. I appreciate you checking this out. This is Canada's top startups of 2022, the 15 best. I just wanted to give a couple insights of what I'm seeing in the market. Some of the fascinating ones to me: I love Ada, I love Cohere. The other one that I love, and I have a couple friends who work there, is Klue. So like market intelligence startup that lets companies collect, manage, and share insights on competitors. So we've got this one basically helping with battle cards, how to compete, how to win when it comes to head-to-head in sales. So super fascinating company, and they've been a lot of success. And when I look at who are these ones that are maybe going to stick around, you can see some big names on here. They definitely seem to be one that's very related with like market needs, sales growth, revenue growth, business growth, and for that reason I have a lot of love for them. Of course, some friends who work there too. So that's it from me today. I hope you liked this video, and if you're looking at this, if you have some thoughts, you have some questions, please feel encouraged to send me a message. Check out the comments in this, because some super fascinating things around investors who have invested in these companies. Congrats. People having some skepticism, other people just celebrating. But overall, fascinating to see all the great companies that are part of this, even, sort of bullish and persevering in a difficult market condition. So thank you very much. This has been Tyler Bryden. I got a fence getting built in the back, so I'm going to go attend to that. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.